And at 9:03, this is a new thing that we're going to do here at the Tiger. The WPKY is going to team with the Times leader and Todd Griffin, and we are excited to launch today the Sideline Report. And I have Todd Griffin in studio. How you doing today, sir?
Good morning. It's good to be here.
We were talking. It's homecoming week, and in a way, this is a homecoming, of course, for Caldwell County High School, but it's a homecoming for you.
It is. It seems like we've come full circle. You and I have done this before in a different spot on the Dawson Road, but it's
over 30 years ago.
Yeah, it was a few days ago, but for me, this is a homecoming. This used to be the quick pick. We were talking before we came on, there used to be a centipede machine over by the front door, and I put enough quarters into that thing that I could probably be retired now. And of course, the cycle shop was next door. My grandfather owned it. My dad worked there. My uncle worked there.
You spent a lot of time on this block.
I walked out here after school every day from West Side and the Butler Building, and so it's kind of a homecoming for me too. So it's just that seems to be the theme of the day.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here, and I'm so excited. Talked to Jared a couple weeks back. I talked to you, and I said, put on your thinking cap. I said, we want to be able to cover Tiger sports in particular here in Caldwell County, and we might touch on some other things down the road. But you all do just a terrific job at the Times Leader. You are Caldwell County sports,
well, thank you.
To be able to partner with you is very fun. And I think it'll be very informative for the listening audience as well. So welcome, and thank you for being here. And I'm sure you ran across the street a few times to get some Druthers cheeseburgers in those days as well.
Well, I remember, I think the standard order was, a cheeseburger, onion rings, and a chocolate shake. I think when they saw me coming, they just went ahead and dipped the onion ring, so it was ready to go when I pulled up to the counter. But yeah, I've been here a whole lot. Like I said, I can still see the counter from the quick pick and the row of drinks in the back and everything. It's kind of interesting.
It's surreal, isn't it? Yeah. Well, we talked about it's homecoming week. It's Spirit Week. Kids have been dressing up. We've been posting pictures. I think there's some excitement of the year. It's our first district game with it seems what's to be a little bit more improved Paducah-Tillman team this year. The district seems to be up a little bit overall. Haven't seen them all play, but what's your take on all this?
Well, I think Steve Duncan now at Paducah-Tillman is going to do wonders for that program. He was at Murray a few years ago and, was sort of a bane for the Tigers while he was there because Caldwell County had some of its best football teams ever, and we saw a couple of those seasons end disappointingly to Murray.
Yeah.
And with Steve Duncan, he's going to bring a lot of discipline. They're going to be physical. They'll get in the weight room. They will be a stout football team, and there won't be any big secret about what they're going to do. They're just going to come out and smack you in the mouth and try to make you like it.
They did that. I went down and watched their game at McCracken County. My son and I went down. In fact, most of the defense for Caldwell County was there watching as well, and I think Will Barnes was down there. But, that's what you got. They're physical. They hit hard. They swarm to the ball on defense, and they're just going to run it down your throat.
Now, all that being said, I think this season Caldwell County is just simply a better football team. Mm-hmm. I think defensively Caldwell County has played very well this year, especially, in football it's not about making every play because that's never going to happen. But you have to make some plays and you have to make key plays. I remember when Rich Brooks was at Kentucky, he would talk about there's about 5 or 6 plays every game that determine the outcome. And I think if you've watched Caldwell County the first 5 weeks of the season, Caldwell makes a lot of those plays, and that's enabled them to pull out a close win against a good Graves County team, close win against a good Hopkinsville team that I think is a lot better than their 1-4 record. Definitely. And Henderson County is a lot better than their 1-4 record at. A lot of people have played some pretty good schedules early on, and those are pretty good football teams.
They are, and I think if you look at our schedule up and down, of course we added the Graves County and Hopkinsville this year, but those are pretty good football teams. In Christian County, we were right there, and that was a good football team as well.
Well, it'd be interesting if the two teams played again, say, this week, because Caldwell County was really trying to find its footing, especially offensively that first game. And you go back and look, and one of Christian County's touchdowns was a fumble return that, just a play that Caldwell botched offensively. Another play was a kickoff return that you wish the Tigers had covered a little differently. An interception set up another touchdown. Well, you start taking some of those mistakes away, and that's what we talked about at halftime. We did our Facebook Live halftime hit at the Henderson game the other night. It should have been 13-0 because of Oliver Parker's big catch and run. It was 13-7. So Caldwell County actually had a little momentum at halftime.
Yeah.
But we talked about take away those mistakes, and Caldwell County's right where it wants to be. Well, they cleaned up the mistakes in the second half, made a few plays, came back and won. It's, sometimes it's not inventing the wheel. It's just, take care of the mistakes.
And executing and doing what
Exactly.
you're supposed to do.
Everybody takes care of their job.
Yes, and I think you did see that. I don't know what was said at halftime, but they came back and they looked like a little bit different football team. Now, granted, they played a pretty good first half as well, but to be on the road and to come back and do that, just an impressive win. I think Coach Barnes said when on the Saturday morning quarterback with Bob that he was probably most impressed and proud. That's probably one of the best overall games he had seen since he'd been there.
Yeah, that's what he said after the game the other night, that in his entire time here, that was one of his biggest wins, which, we've won a state semifinal game at DeSales and some other big wins, so that's pretty high praise. And I think I think Henderson was just so physical up front. Henderson owned the line of scrimmage,
Yes.
not just the first half, but for much of the night. It's tough to win those games, but Caldwell County found a way. And the defense was out on the field, it seemed like the entire game. In a way, it's good because that meant in the second half the offense was scoring so quick, but you put them out there, I think they played 82 plays.
Yes.
But when the game was on the line in the fourth quarter, they came up with a stop, came up with a turnover, and that switched the ball game.
Sure, it did, and we were talking up there in the booth that the control of the game was all Henderson County. They controlled the ball. I mean, we ran 10 plays, I think, that whole first half.
Yeah,
and that's amazing to come out of a game like that the way we did.
But you talk about Oliver Parker's touchdown right before halftime, swinging momentum. He had another one, start of the second half, a 78-yarder that put Caldwell up. Henderson came back. Trail Riley returns the kickoff, 95 or 96 yards for a touchdown, so the game swung back the other way. So it was just a game of big plays, and Caldwell County just made a few more plays than Henderson.
And hard to right now, I think if you'd say we were at 4-1, people would say, "Are you kidding me?" Because I think in the preseason they had us at 6-4, I believe.
Yeah, for the year.
For the year. And so now, granted, it could still be that way, but some of these games, I think early on, we weren't supposed to be in the W column.
Well, going into the season, when you look at the schedule, and of course coaches say don't look ahead, but we do because we're not coaches. You looked at the schedule, and realistically going over it, you thought, well, Christian County, Hopkinsville, and Mayfield are three games that are going to be tough to get.
Yeah.
They just are. Those teams are really good. It's no knock on Caldwell County. Just, talking about Christian and Hopkinsville, those are both bigger schools. Mayfield is Mayfield. So, okay, there's three. There were 3 or 4 games I thought Caldwell should win. Crittenden, Trigg, Union, and Fort Campbell. Probably going to win those games.
Yeah.
So that left the Graves County game, the Tillman game, and I've gone blank on the other one right now, but
yeah, I have too for some reason.
So I thought those other 3 games were going to determine the outcome of the season.
Trig? No, you said that was a win.
I said what?
Yeah.
Well, whichever.
Yeah.
Maybe Graves. Maybe Graves
okay.
was the one that one of the toss-ups. I think that was it. So we got the Graves game, got the Hopkinsville game, which was in the probably not going to win game. Well, now instead of being 3-2 at the midpoint of the season, kind of halfway before the district starts, Caldwell's 4-1. But you go back, you play that Christian game again. It could be different, but you could play that game with Graves County. If you don't get the turnovers early, maybe Graves wins that one. They're pretty good. The Hopkinsville game had to score twice in the last 3 minutes to pull that one out. I think Hopkinsville gave Christian County all they wanted.
They sure did.
At Crittenden County, that slow start, that was dangerous. 14-3, and you think things are going south on you, and we're able to get that game turned around. And then, of course, at Henderson, if you don't make some plays there, you could lose that one. So it could be 1-4, 4-1. It's just good teams. I've found winning is a knack.
Yeah.
There's a knack to winning just like everything else, and I think this team kind of has a knack of when they need to make a play, when they need to bear down, when they need to come up with something to turn the tide.
To say the least, it's been a little strange. I've been to my son has played football for years, and I go to all the games, but I've seen it a little different this year because I've been behind the camera here on the stream. So I've seen things a little different, but it's just been each and every week the games have been so different, and they're winning in so many different ways with these wins. A lot of it is defense, but we've seen the offense starting to click and show signs of continuity here lately, especially this last game. Joby and Oliver and a lot of those guys have been playing together for years, and you really saw those old connections really click up in Henderson County. What are you expecting this week with Paducah Tillman? What do you see?
Well, like we wrote in the paper the other day, it's kind of a big contrast. Caldwell wants to get the football, and the Tigers can't go fast enough on offense. They just simply cannot. I think Coach Barnes, both of them, David and Will, would like for the offensive line to be set as soon as the whistle blows on the previous play. But, that's what they want to do. They're trying to get plays off before the defense gets set, and they're trying to wear the defense down. Paducah Tillman is completely the opposite. We saw this when Coach Duncan was at Murray. They want to be very deliberate. They want to be ball control. They want to take the football, grind out first downs. They're happy with 4 yards of play. If they can take an extra few seconds, one of the reasons we have play clocks at Tiger Stadium is because Murray came out here one night, and for some reason, the referees let them take 35 or 40 seconds between plays.
Right.
So now we have play clocks, so the world can see where the play clock is, and they're
that's
still
a
going to.
true story.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that Murray game is still kind of, I think, sticks in everybody.
Sure.
Yeah. But that's what they want to do. They want to take the football. If they can keep it 8 minutes out of whack, and keep your offense off the field, just like Henderson last week. The first half time of possession was crazy. Caldwell County had it for less than 5 minutes. Henderson had it for almost 19.
Yeah.
And then you look at the score and it's 13-7, and you're thinking, well, maybe this game's not as bad as we thought it was, or it felt like at the time.
Right. And, of course, I think you're going to see that Paducah Tillman has several different runners. Of course, I think their quarterback, Harmon.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's a great athlete. I wasn't impressed with him throwing the ball, but he doesn't have to with that offense. They move a lot. They got a lot of some movement, and they're coming around. They're schemed. They've got lots of different runners they throw at you. There might be 3 or 4 guys running, different runners at you. So.
And like everyone else, they've played a really tough schedule.
It
seems like it's getting to the point to where, the schools that are good at football can only schedule each other, because a lot of teams, the weaker teams or the smaller schools don't want to play somebody. If you're Graves County or Christian County or McCracken County or Tillman, not a lot of the small schools in the area want to play you. So that doesn't really leave you a whole lot of scheduling options, because there simply aren't that many teams. And Caldwell County has run into that,
Definitely.
Some schools won't play them, so that's why in the past we took a trip to Greene County. We went to North Hardin. This year it's a little better because, the Henderson trip and the Union County trip is about the only big trips we have. And those aren't really big trips. But
no, but they're a little bit of a distance.
Right.
And, of course, this schedule is pretty much going to stay consistent next year. From what I do believe.
And then we should get realignment after that.
That's what I was thinking.
It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out, because Caldwell County right now is one of the smaller 3A schools. I think they're probably going to stay kind of where they are in 3A, which 3A has actually been pretty good to the Tigers the last couple of years. And if you go down to 2A, you've got Mayfield, so I think I'd just as soon stay here and take my chances with Paducah Tillman and Trigg County and Fort Campbell every year.
I think so. So I was looking in the paper, and all you guys picked Caldwell over Tillman, and pretty consistent there. So that's pretty much the way you see it going down this week.
You'd say a touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 10 points, somewhere around there. You never know the ebb and flow of a football game. If Tillman can dictate pace, then it's going to be a real low-scoring game. If Caldwell can get the lead and force Tillman to play catch-up, then we might see some more points scored. And one thing we talked about earlier this year is we really got spoiled for a while there when we were going to football games and then we were scoring 50 or 60 points a night. And I'm like, it's just not realistic to expect that all the time. Well, now we're kind of back. Yes, we got 60 at Crittenden County, but that was after Crittenden got behind and had to force some things and, try to play catch-up, and we took advantage of that. But it doesn't matter to me. I'm kind of old school. I just like to win. If it's 3-2 or 83-82. It doesn't matter as long as I've got the higher number.
Right, that's right. And it's been a fun season so far. And
it's been great for Tiger fans.
Yeah.
Sometimes you look back and how much fun it was watching Elijah Sindelar sling the ball all over the field, but it's kind of fun showing up each night and seeing what's going to happen.
Yeah, because like you said, we've seen a variety of different things and plays where there's defense, offense, a little bit different things, and it's fun because you never know quite what's going to happen, and
right.
You just kind of wait in anticipation of, when's that long pass coming, when's somebody going to break a run. And our special teams too, we've got people that can field balls on special teams and take it to the house, so that's always an exciting.
Oh yeah, we have playmakers. Mm-hmm. That's another thing that we talked about earlier this year, that going into the season we anticipated a few losses. But the whole deal was that's fine as long as a team gets better. I look back at that Christian County game. I think that set up the Tigers great for the next couple of weeks. Yeah. Even though they lost that game, you'd say, well, we lost the game 27-10. How was that great? Well, it wasn't great that we lost, but by playing that stiff competition, that's coming next week. It's coming the next week. It's coming the next week.
You just sort of raise yourself up.
You don't want to play weak competition where you can get away with being sloppy and still win. Play the good teams, learn to deal with, an opponent that's really good, and just come out expecting to have to play well each night to win.
Yeah, and I think the Tigers are definitely demonstrating that. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in a minute, and we'll talk some more about football. But it's been a great week sports-wise for the Tigers.
This is a big week. We picked a good week to start our show.
We did, and we've got lots of great stuff to talk about. We're always excited about football. It is just it's homecoming week, it's Spirit Week, and the kids are having fun, and we're just going to have a great home game. We want to encourage everybody to get out and support the Tigers Friday night at Tiger Stadium. I think the homecoming activity is going to get underway about 6:30. The kickoff at 7 o'clock. And just going to be just a perfect night for football out there tomorrow night. So we're going to take a break here on the Sideline Report with Todd Griffin, brought to you by the Times Leader. It's 20 after 9, and we'll come back. We're going to talk more about all the good stuff going on with Caldwell County Tiger sports here on your hometown radio station, WPKY The Tiger.
Have you been a victim of debit or credit card fraud? Farmers Bank and Trust can help lessen your risk of getting taken advantage of. As our customer, you have exclusive access to a security feature in our app that will allow you to turn your debit card off while you're not using it, then turn it on instantly when you need to use it. Keep your information safe. Log into our free app to use this feature, increasing the security of your information right now. Not a Farmers Bank customer? Come down. Let us set up your account and start protecting you from potential fraud opportunities. This is not a guarantee that your information will not be compromised. This is an increased security measure. Farmers Bank and Trust, member FDIC.
This is Gail Cherry. I'm a board member for Community Medical Clinic located at 310 Hawthorne Street in Princeton. Community Medical Clinic's goal is to provide access to excellent health care services that are both convenient and affordable in our local community. Community Medical Clinic is taking new patients every day, and walk-ins are welcome. The clinic is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. to serve you and your family members of all ages. All insurances are welcome, as well as patients with no insurance. Community Medical Clinic, providing health care services at your convenience at no
3-setter to a really good Kentucky Country Day team, a private school in Louisville.
Right.
And I know the team was disappointed with that loss and thought if they could have gotten by that game, maybe they could have got to the championship game of that. Of course, there were some other really good teams up there. St. Henry won it. They're ranked 5th in the state. Louisville Presentation was in the other side of the bracket. They're ranked 6th. So some really good competition. But, again, like we talked in football, you want to play those teams. You don't get a lot better playing teams that just aren't up to your level. And as a matter of fact, everybody likes to have an easy game every now and then, to pad their stats a little bit, and we understand that. We've all been there. But you want to play those good teams to see where you are and where you need to improve. And I think that All-A Classic is great for the Lady Tigers because I think ultimately they want to challenge for the second region championship at the end of the season. The All-A Classic is really good, but it's not the end of the year thing.
Right.
You want to go beat Henderson and win that thing. And so I think that sets them up well for that later on. And, the volleyball team is 13-6, which is a really good record. You go back and look at who they've lost to. I mean, that's outstanding.
Yes.
And I'd rather be 13-6 against a tough schedule than be sitting here, 18-1 and who have we played.
No, you're right. It just makes you better when you get to those later on down the road.
But they have a big home match tonight against Madisonville. As a matter of fact, you can do the doubleheader tonight if you want to, because girls soccer is playing Fort Campbell here. The varsity is playing first at 5:30, so you can do that and then head out to the Cab Gym. Volleyball is playing Madisonville. It's, I believe, freshman, JV, varsity, twin bill tonight at about 5:30. So that means varsity probably around 7:30-ish.
Yeah.
So that you can do both of those games tonight, and that volleyball game is big with Madisonville, a chance to get the #1 seed, and because it's a 3-team district, if you get the #1 seed, you're straight into the championship game in the district tournament, and you earn a berth in the regional tournament, so you don't have to worry about,
this is big.
Yeah, that's a big game.
Yeah.
Boys soccer has a big game at Madisonville tonight. Same deal there. The Tigers with a 3-2 shootout win over at Hopkins County Central the other night, which was a big win for them, breaking a 4-game skid. That makes them 1-0 in the district. They go to Madisonville tonight. You pull off a win there. The Tigers are the #1 seed, and they have an automatic berth to the regional tournament. So it's a little interesting to get in that 3-team district scenario because, Dawson doesn't have volleyball, and this year Dawson Springs wasn't able to field a soccer team either, girls or boys. So that makes those regular season district games mean something, and to me that's fun because you want something to be on the line, and so it's a big night tonight with 3 games, and my plans are to be at the girls soccer game at 5:30 and hopefully getting some tweets out and to go to the volleyball game and hopefully again be able to get that out on social media.
Yeah, and of course we're covering the soccer game tonight, the girls soccer game versus Fort Campbell at Butler, and we'll definitely try to get out there too. I talked to Coach Courtner yesterday, and I know he and Coach Griggs that they're very proud of their volleyball team, as they should be. The girls are working hard and having a fantastic season.
Well, that's something I don't think gets mentioned enough, and probably not in the paper, and I guess that's my fault, is, you look at how many people put time and effort into local programs, and I think sometimes we're really spoiled in Caldwell County, and I've mentioned this before. Not every community has a paper that's going to devote 4 or 5 pages twice a week to the sports. Not every community has a radio station that's going to show up and broadcast ball games. Not every community has businesses willing to give money to the local sports teams.
And support them with advertising or whatever so they can be covered.
Not every community has a school system willing to put into sports and athletics what this community does. And you look at it and, we have some really good programs. Volleyball is one of the top 2 programs in the region pretty consistently.
Yeah, it's just us in Henderson County mainly, isn't it?
The baseball team has won the last 2 regional championships. Football team has been in 5 straight regional championships. You can just go down the line, and sometimes it's easy to get spoiled of that. And I'm telling you, at every community and every school, that doesn't happen. Sometimes they're lucky if they compete in one sport, and here we have multiple sports. So I think sometimes that gets overlooked.
This might sound crazy, but it's almost as if the community wills it.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying about that? I mean, of course, yes, we've got the kids that are out there working hard and they're giving their all and the best, but it's almost like this community picks up these kids, lifts them up, and encourages them so much and supports them that, man, it just happens, and that's what's so cool about, sports here in Caldwell County.
Well, you do have to have that good support system, but then you look at how hard the coaches work. They put a lot more time into it than what they get paid. There's a lot of assistant coaches. Some of them don't make anything, and they're out there all the time. There's parents who are working not with just their kid, but somebody else's kid to make them better, and that goes all the way down back through youth sports, and that's where it starts. You have good youth programs, and junior pro football, I think, is a big catalyst for why the Caldwell County football program has been good. I think the best thing that ever happened to junior pro was when they split and had 2 teams. Mm-hmm. So now in each age group, you're developing 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 4 receivers. So you've doubled the number of kids who are getting to play at that level. More kids are getting better, and when you get to high school, you have a bigger pool to choose from.
And they're doing the same thing, it seems like, in some of these other sports, whether it might not be school organized, but they've got the travel seasons, the off-season fall balls, if your sports in the spring, like the softball and things like that. Now, granted, if you're going to dedicate yourself to a sport, it's about a year-round endeavor for a lot of these families, isn't it?
It is, and sometimes you wonder if it's good. We see people devoting themselves to one sport. Think of it, Emma Talley. Emma Talley could have played basketball and been a good basketball player.
Yeah.
She could have played soccer and been a good soccer player. She could have been a good softball player. But I think she picked the right sport.
Sure, sure. And yeah, and boy, I tell you what, we haven't touched on that yet, and we will, I'm sure, at some point. But that's winding down here, and she's right there. She just hold on here a couple more. I think she's going to play 3 more events.
3 more weeks, and she's in 7th place on the money list. Needs to finish in the top 10 to be on the LPGA Tour next week or next season. And how big is that? That somebody from Princeton that played at Caldwell County High School is, that close to being on the LPGA Tour.
And another, maybe a top 10 or maybe a top 5 finish at one of those might seal the deal for.
Absolutely.
In one of those events, So great, good luck to her. I talked to her the other day. She was home for a minute, and I just kind of spoke to her for a minute, and she said, I'm taking this week off, but I'm going to be back. And so, best of luck to her.
But and the competition she faces every week, they're so good that it just comes down to who's making a putt, who's putting well that day, who's chipping well.
Yeah.
I mean,
or who's on a little bit of a streak. You see it in golf so much, especially on the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour, man. They just get hot.
Golf is like any other sport, I think. There's momentum to golf. If you're hitting the ball well, you can't wait to get over that next shot and hit it. And if you're putting well, you can't wait to get on the green and putt. And on the other hand, if it's going bad and you've let a shot or two get away from you, you become tentative, and that's never a good thing in golf.
No, and I think as I know you play golf, I used to play more golf than I do now, but you can't think about it much. You just got to get out there and play it.
Oh, yeah. If you can turn your brain off, that's the best way to play. Unfortunately, that's tough to do.
That's right. Well, big night tonight for our volleyball team, and good luck to those ladies tonight out at the Cab. And we've got a revamped Freddie the Tiger on the side of it, so hopefully those folks that are coming in are going to be intimidated by Freddie the Tiger, and our girls will be ready to take it to them tonight.
The kids take that Tiger seriously. I know more than once at football games they'd have the opening coin toss, and, of course, the other team would win it and say, we want the football. A lot of those kids will say, we want to defend the Tiger. That was always the big thing.
Yeah.
So, everybody knows that Tiger's up there watching, and I think it's helped us win a couple of games or two.
I had not heard that. Of course, I had Richie McKinney yesterday. He'd just been out there revamping it. And, boy, he had such a good time doing it. And I cannot believe, I guess that was had they started, I know the Cab was not there when I graduated. I think it was your senior year. You were a year after me. Did they start it, or it was the year after?
I think they had begun construction on it because my class was the last class to still graduate down in the Butler gym.
Okay, that's right.
And it was really, really hot. So
it's always hot down there.
The next year they graduated in the Cab gym, and they had the air conditioner on, and I was a little jealous about that.
but that's how long that Tiger had been up there.
Yeah.
And that's neat, and I haven't really thought about it, defending the Tiger and that Tiger watching over us, but it definitely is, and that's a neat thing.
I'd never thought of that either, but I heard some of the kids say, we want to defend the Tiger, and that's a big deal to them.
Yeah, and it is. It's back on that one side of that end zone there. So what else is going on, my man? Like I said, big week, and if you love sports here, you got to love this week that we're having.
Well, and again, some good teams to go watch if you want to go watch. The Lady Tiger soccer team is 8-4. I think they have a good chance to win that game tonight against Fort Campbell.
They're fun to watch.
Be 9-4. Volleyball is 13-6. Could be 14-6 if they get Madisonville. I think Madisonville is right behind them in the region standing, so that should be a good match. Boys soccer at Madisonville, I think that'll be close if the Tigers could squeeze that one out again. And then tomorrow night, the big football game. It continues Saturday. We've got volleyball at the Cab Saturday morning. Those were some late additions to the schedule, but Caldwell will play Christian Fellowship at 9:30. That's one of the top teams in the first region. Caldwell will play Owensboro Apollo at 11 o'clock. I think Apollo is ranked first in the third region. And then there'll be some other games. I think Hopkinsville is going to come over and play Christian Fellowship and Apollo after those games.
A little tournament? Is that what it is?
I think it's just a little get-together. They brought some teams in, let everybody play everybody. And, Hopkinsville is pretty good this year in volleyball, too. So those will be some good matches. Boys soccer is in action at the Christian County Tournament. Girls soccer is on the road Saturday at the Warren Central Tournament in Bowling Green. And then you've got junior pro football at 2 o'clock at Tiger Stadium. The Caldwell White teams host the Union County Blue teams. And then, of course, Saturday night, UK and Florida. And, you know, if you're a UK fan, you've been waiting for that win over Florida for a long, long time. I don't know if it's coming Saturday night. Being the big homer I am, I picked the Cats.
I saw that. I was looking at you, and it looks like you guys split this week on that. Looks like 2 of you did Kentucky and 2 of you did Florida. Is that right?
Well,
let's see here.
Some of my fellow pickers just can't bring themselves to pick Kentucky to win a big game. So that's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be just a big physical football game Saturday night, and I hope Kentucky is finally in a situation where they can win one of those against a really good team.
Maybe
but
Florida will shake their hand.
I would, yeah. That didn't work for South
Didn't
Carolina
work, did
last
it?
week, not shaking the hands. But, you know, I think we've all become so conditioned as Kentucky football fans to watching the Cats lose. You know, they get so close, you know, that you can almost taste it, and then somehow they snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But hopefully this time they can get that. And if Kentucky can get that win and go 4-0, you know, maybe earn a ranking, get in the top 25.
They're about to cut it.
They could have a really good year, but, you know, how many times have we been there and said, if only, and then had our hearts broken, you know, at the last second? I can remember Kentucky picking off Florida 7 times one night, and then watching Chris Doering catch a pass in the end zone at the very end to beat Kentucky, and you're just like, well, what do you have to do?
It's almost like you're snake bit.
Exactly.
I mean,
you're almost, you get to the point, like I said, we're conditioned to expect that loss, and I think the players, they will say, and the coaches will say, well, that 30-game losing streak, we didn't have anything to do with that. Yes, but it's always there, and you're always looking for that one thing to go wrong that's going to cost you the game, and that's a big hill to get over sometimes.
Definitely, but I think you know they seem to have the Kentucky program going in the right direction. I don't keep up with it probably the way I should, but it seems to me that each and every year, you know, what do you think it is, Todd? About what do you know, SEC school? Is it just the tradition is not there, and they can't get the type of recruits that the Floridas and Alabamas? I mean, you know, it's just the name, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. Part of it goes back to the Bear Bryant curse. You know, they had a chance to keep the Bear and kind of insulted him, I guess, and he ended up going to Alabama and probably won a few games there. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah,
and Kentucky put all its eggs into basketball. That's no big secret. I mean, it did, but and they've had fantastic success. It's in college sports. A lot of times you have success in the programs you put money into, and that's where Kentucky put its money. But I think being the northernmost SEC school hurts Kentucky in the recruiting wars. Yeah. But I think Coach Stoops and his staff has done phenomenal there. As a matter of fact, the part that would frustrate me as a UK fan is you would see where Kentucky was ranked high in the recruiting rankings, but then they wouldn't win, and they were ranked high in their recruiting rankings again the next year, and you're like, well, if you're getting all these kids, at some point, shouldn't we be winning games?
Why aren't they developing?
So it's a little frustrating when you don't see the wins, but I think we're starting to see finally a program that is deep enough that it has some players, probably not on the lines of the top teams in the SEC yet, but it does have those players not only on the front line, but the second string and even sometimes third string, where if someone gets hurt in the past, if your top player or two got hurt, well, you were done because that was all you had. Now we're seeing Kentucky has other players that can fill in.
Yeah.
So
get a little bit more depth, aren't they?
Hopefully they're closing the gap. I don't know that they're anywhere close to an Alabama or somebody like that, but you've got to start closing that gap on the Floridas and the South Carolinas and the Georgias and those teams, and just, you know, try to inch your way up and just, you know, win the games you can win. I don't think anybody's expecting Kentucky to have an undefeated national championship season, but there's no reason why they can't win 7, 8 games. You still won. You've got 9.
Yeah.
Now you move up. You play in a better bowl. You get more exposure. Hopefully you get better recruits, and it just kind of goes from there.
It's consistency, I think, in college football.
Yeah.
It's getting consistency, staying in that top 25, and these kids that are coming to play, you've got a much better chance if you can say, hey, you know, we've got a top SEC program. We're going to be in a bowl every year. We're going to be, you know, in the top 25 at some point. So, yeah.
And hopefully getting better bowls every year and moving up that pecking order.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's kind of interesting. I think I read a story, Murray State back on the Kentucky schedule in 2018. I think they played up there several years ago.
2003.
Yeah. So they've got Murray State's going to go up to, I guess, Kroger Field, I guess is where they'll play.
I'm having a tough time calling it Kroger
Yeah.
Field, but
Yeah, I
for
know.
$2 million a year, I will change my name to Kroger Field.
I think I would too. And then I think they get a Middle Tennessee as well up there.
Yeah, it's like the old OVC schedule.
Yeah. So they ought to get wins there at least anyway.
Well, 2003, I was actually at that game, and the quarterback for the Murray State Racers that day was Stuart Childress.
I was just going to say that. It sure was. Caldwell County, Stuart Childress, and a great quarterback over there.
He had a great college career. And,
he did.
I always wish Stuart would have kept punting. I always thought, he was an all-state punter at Caldwell County. Didn't do that at Murray State, but I always thought, how great would it be to be an NFL punter? You're making that salary, you're on an NFL team, and all you have to do is run out there about 4 or 5 times a game, kick the ball, and run back off the field. That would be perfect.
Yeah, and he was, of course, quarterback, I guess, in that 98 state championship.
He was. That was a heck of a team. And,
heck of a team.
Some Caldwell County people still say the 97 team was better than the 98 team, especially the guys on the 97 team that graduated.
Of course.
and they were. I mean, you just hit it right sometimes. The 98 team, a lot like this year's team, they didn't make every play, but they knew they didn't have to. They made the key plays, and they made some big plays, and you could almost say they even beat a couple of teams they probably shouldn't have. But, I mean, that's part of it. If you hang in there and give yourselves a chance, and sometimes it works out for you. I think, remembering that Danville game in the state championship in 98, I think Caldwell County was a 25-point underdog according to the Litkenhouse ratings. So Caldwell won that game 38-28, so much for the ratings.
I heard Gator was in here last week talking about that, and he said he just, in the second half, as it just, all those events turned and went in Caldwell's
favor. It was
favor.
surreal almost.
Yeah. He said, they looked up in the fourth quarter and said, we're winning this game,
Yeah.
and just couldn't believe it. And he said just that's how things happen. It just sort of clicks. And he said that I found it kind of fascinating. He said his 85 team at Crittenden County was very similar to this 98 team in so many ways, and he kind of compared and contrasted. But the comparisons were unreal.
But how good was Caldwell County's 2012 team?
Yeah.
2011 went to the state finals and lost a game that maybe we coulda, shoulda, woulda won, maybe, but if the game had been another 30 seconds longer, probably pull that game out. But I really thought the 2012 team was the better overall team. But we started the show talking about Murray and head coach Steve Duncan, who's now at Paducah Tillman, and they just Murray beat them that night, and Murray deserved to win that game.
Yeah,
no arguments here. I mean, they just came in and outplayed us.
They did, and that was a heartbreaker to be
It
sure.
was.
And I remember it, and I know you remember it well. But some amazing history. You've put together the book about Caldwell County football, and we'll turn it back there for a few minutes as we head into this homecoming, and it's going to be a heck of a football game Friday night.
Well, that's kind of why I wanted to call our show the Sideline Report, because the sideline is where I've kind of set up shop for several years now, and that's kind of the view I have of the game. And
all games, you're on the sideline everywhere.
Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's not the best place to watch a game. Sometimes I'll go back and watch the football games on film, online, and you see things a little differently from up top as you do from the sideline. But I always felt like I've had kind of a front row seat for Caldwell sporting events, and I've been glad to have that. But as far as this week, again, it's just which team can will its game plan against the other. I really feel good about Caldwell County's chances because I love the tough schedule they've played early in the season. You're danged if you do, danged if you don't sometimes on those. You can play a really tough schedule and lose some games and lose confidence, and it can bury you. Or you can do like, we've done the last few years, played a really tough schedule, and it's really helped us prepare for the district. And, again, I think playing a Graves County, even playing a Crittenden County, who was fired up to play the Tigers that night, playing Hopkinsville.
And Crittenden County was a much improved team from
exactly.
last year's team.
Even that loss to Christian County, when you get in a game against a really good team and you have that knowledge of playing those good teams to fall back on, that is such an advantage. But in football, anything can happen. We used to always laugh that every football coach, when asked what will be the key to the game, will say turnovers. Well, Yes.
Yeah, you got it.
You know, those changed the game completely. Caldwell County has actually been great in that department this year.
They have.
I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I think Caldwell is like plus 10 or something like that in turnovers. Well, that's huge, especially when you're playing these close games.
They're seeing the ball. Of course, you know, we all saw how many interceptions we had at the Crittenden County game. You know, our defensive guys are just, you know, almost like the quarterbacks are telegraphing passes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're just picking up on those reads and are seeing the ball very well. Of course, Mr. Litkenhouse, Professor Litkenhouse, as Bob likes says, has Caldwell at a 103.3, Blue Tornado at 84.4. And those seem to be pretty, you know, mathematically accurate.
That's about where I would think the game is. I don't know if Caldwell is a 19-point favorite.
No,
the
maybe
thing about
8 to 14, maybe.
probably
Yeah.
The thing about the computer rankings is I think they get better the deeper into the season you go.
You got
As a
better
matter
stats,
of fact,
I guess.
you know, I vote on the AP poll.
Okay.
And I think the more people that vote for that poll, the better it is. But it's difficult the second week of the season to vote on a top 10 because, you know, no one's played anybody
Don't
yet.
have a clue.
You don't have a clue. So, but what happens, and the same thing in college, they'll have a preseason poll. Well, you've ranked these teams. Well, now you're kind of going off of your rankings the rest of the season, and you haven't really given everyone a fair shot. And another thing about the Litkenhouse ratings and the Lexington paper has the Cantrell rankings.
Yeah.
There is an historical component into those rankings that nobody ever talks about. Otherwise, if you played a really weak team the first week of the season and beat them by 80 points, you would be the number one ranked team in the state, and that obviously doesn't happen. You know,
Right.
Mayfield or Louisville St. X or Trinity, those teams start, you know, with a higher ranking than somebody else. I don't know the exact thing. I don't think they even have ever told anybody what their exact formula is, but there's obviously that historical component because otherwise the rankings would be all over the place on those first couple of games.
Right. So I guess as we were talking about this, we need to watch out for those. Our defense needs to watch out for those for the run game.
Absolutely,
yeah.
And Caldwell's been pretty good against the run. Henderson was really good last week, though. It's, you know, we talked about our defense, and they're so opportunistic. They will give up some yards sometimes, I mean, and that's fine because yards don't win games. Points on the scoreboard
Patterson ran tough. I mean, last week.
They were good.
They were good. Yeah.
Thankfully, they didn't have a really good passing game, so you could kind of cheat a little bit against the run and make some stops.
Yeah.
But hopefully, Caldwell County, from a Tiger fan standpoint, won't get in a situation this week where they only have the ball for 10 or 12 snaps the first half and can get off the field. Even that first series last week, I think Henderson ended up with a touchdown. Caldwell had some chances to get off the field.
Right.
And, again, we go back to what we talked about earlier about mistakes. You know, you can't come out in a big district game Friday night and make a bunch of mistakes. You have to come out and play a clean game. I think with a clean game, I think we see the Tigers win that game. And the last 2 years, that's been the district championship. Even though it's the first game, it's been the district championship because whoever won that game is going to win the district. I'm not sure that's the case this year. Union County has really improved. They beat Madisonville week before last. They've got a lot of confidence.
And we got to go over there.
And we have to go to Union County, and it's always been tough to go up there.
They're physical, and it is it's a tough place to play for some reason. We've been lucky to get out of there sometimes.
Actually, the last time we went up there, I believe Coach Boston, who is Henderson's coach now, was Union's coach then.
Okay.
And so they were that same kind of physical team, and it was a similar game. You know,
It was.
Union County won the line of scrimmage. Caldwell couldn't run the football, but the Tigers were able to get some big plays and got out of there with a win. So I think that's what we're going to look at the next 2 weeks.
We did that game. I actually had to go up there the last time we were up there and help Bob, and we didn't. It's dark. They put us across the field. We don't get to stay up in the press box up there. They send us across the field.
Oh, really?
We're in the box on
okay.
on the Caldwell County side, and there's no light. We're in there with the coaches, and I mean you can't see anything. There's only one light switch in there. But we were with that. I remember that game being. We didn't know if we were going to get out of there with a win because they were physical and they beat us up pretty good.
It should be an interesting ball game. Like I said, you keep looking at the schedule and you think, well, if we get past this week, maybe next week it's an easier game. Then you get to next week and it's not an easier game. And then you think, well, if we win this week, we'll get an easier game next week. And then you look and, you know, you go from Hopkinsville to Crittenden County and Henderson County and Paducah-Tillman, and then next week Union County. The week after that, I think it's Trigg County, and
right.
Trigg County is licking its chops because
Caldwell's
kind of owned that series for a while, and Trigg County, the Caldwell-Trigg thing, that's maybe a subject for another time. That's really developed into a big rivalry across the board. Even though in some sports we're not district opponents anymore, that's a big rivalry. So, Trigg is looking at that game down the road as, hey, it's at our place. It'd be good to ruin Caldwell's season here.
And Purdue Field, for some reason, we've been fortunate the past few times, been over there and had things well in hand. But, if you get down or you're not having your best night, that could be a tough place. Those fans are usually really into it. Like you said, it's a prideful thing.
Yeah, everybody's right on top of you when you go over to Purdue Field. The stands, especially on the visitor sideline, there's not much room to get around. A couple of years ago we took 80 players over there when I think, was that the 2011, 12 team, one of those, and there's not much room to get around over there, so it can be intimidating.
Definitely, it can be. Big week, much success and much luck to our Caldwell County Tiger football team, to our ladies and volleyball tonight. And you said you're going to go out there after soccer tonight.
I'm going to try to pull the doubleheader tonight and get to both of them, and hopefully, be able to get that out on Twitter and Facebook, and then have a lot of stuff in the paper on Saturday.
Let's talk about that. I do want to encourage everybody, and I know most everybody here in Princeton and Caldwell County, and even parts beyond, get this paper, but Todd does a fantastic job in the Times Leader, and that's one reason why I thought it'd be really great for WPKY to partner with him, because if it's Caldwell County sports, if it's from Little League to Junior Pro, Todd's on it, and he does a fantastic job. So we encourage you to pick up the Times Leader on Saturdays. He has a fantastic wrap. You can listen to our Saturday Morning Quarterback, and you can read Todd's wrap of the game on Saturday. And
all the stats are there.
Yes.
Gary Goodacre does an outstanding job of keeping stats for us. I always tell everybody that the clipboards are just there for show. Gary keeps all those stats in his head.
Of course. There's no other way about it. There's no doubt about it. Just carries around the clipboard for the look
it's just for show. Yeah, it makes you look like you're doing something.
Is Tyler Bashir still helping you do that some?
Tyler's helping. Chris George comes in from Bowling Green just about every week to help keep stats. So we were talking earlier about the support system from the community.
Yes.
Well, that says a lot that people are willing to come back, show up at the game every night, whether we're home or away, just to help us out with stats.
And of course, not only do you have that aspect, but you all do you do Twitters and Facebook Lives. You do a pregame.
Do a pregame, a halftime show, and a postgame.
Right.
And some are better than others.
Well, I mean, we can't all be on all the time, but they're pretty good. I'll be up in the booth doing our broadcast, and I'll tune into you guys.
But the social media aspect, in some ways, it's added to the job. In other ways, it's great because sometimes when the paper comes out on Wednesday, there's a little something you couldn't get in the paper. There's something you got wrong that you need to correct, or something you need to add to whatever's in there. And so Twitter and Facebook have been great for that. And I always try to tell people, I get people all the time that will say, well, I don't do Twitter. Well, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You just have to sign up, and then you can sit there and read it. And there's a lot of information out there, not just me. And I try to make a point of posting things on Twitter that, don't make the paper or didn't make the paper or just, additions, little notes here or there. They might not be the earth-breaking.
No, but they're relevant.
Yes, but and they're fun little facts,
Yeah.
and I try to put some of those things on there. So I would encourage everybody, I'm at Todd Griffin 100 on Twitter, and everything I tweet goes on my Facebook page. So
got them linked up there.
Yeah, so you can follow along, and I think the best thing is just the score updates. A lot of people say they go out to eat supper and can just pull their phone up and see how the teams are doing.
That's right. They not be listening here or watching a stream, but they're having to do something else. And those updates that you give, and we're going to start retweeting some of those and redoing on Facebook on our page as well. And appreciate that, because it's awfully handy and very helpful. But I would encourage you, if you're out there, we have our pregame and postgame, but you can't get enough information when you're talking sports. So
well, and the great thing about all of those is, if you can't be at a game, and we can't cover everything, whether you're the radio station or the newspaper, there are just too many things going on to get to everybody's game. I wish we had more people and more resources, But the great thing is, if you're a parent and you're at a soccer game and there's nobody there, or you're at a volleyball game or softball, basketball, whatever, you can tweet a halftime score and to me or whoever, and we can retweet it. It gets out on Twitter, on Facebook. It's great to share that information. And
it is.
We talked before we came on the air about how different things
It's
are
changed,
now.
yeah.
We were doing this very same thing 30, 35 years ago.
Yeah.
It was 30 years ago, I guess.
It was.
But we didn't have cell phones. If you had to contact somebody, if you couldn't get them at work and couldn't get them at home, you couldn't get them.
You couldn't get them.
Well, now we have these little phones, and we can share information. And thankfully, everybody is good about it. If I can't get to a game, 9 times out of 10, somebody will text me a score or tweet a score or whatever, and we're able to get that out and share it. And that's what we're trying to do, is keep everybody updated on how the teams are doing, where they're playing, what's going on, all that good stuff.
And you do a great job of that. And that's one reason why I think this is going to be so much fun on Thursdays at 9 o'clock is to, you have everything, the whole week right there, and we can look at what's upcoming. We can look back at what's going on, and we can refer folks to the paper, to the Twitter, to everywhere to kind of get the information that they need. If they missed a game, they can go to our website. If we streamed it, it's there. They can watch it. We can all kind of work together to let everybody stay informed.
Well, that's something that, we started at football games, was the Facebook Live, and we have tried to post a few videos here and there during the game, but from our standpoint, we're better off concentrating on stats and the newspaper, because the radio station is streaming the game.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to watch it,
they can go back and watch it.
It's there.
Yeah.
So there's no sense in us all doing the same coverage. We all need to be doing our thing and making sure that as much information is out there as we can get.
Give us some feedback, folks. This is our first day doing this, our first Thursday, but we're going to attempt to do this throughout our sports seasons on Thursdays at 9 o'clock. And, contact Todd and talk to him about, we're going to try to touch on all the sports happenings here in Caldwell County and mainly, talk about our kids, some of their performances, what they do, and keep everybody informed of what's going on.
Well, just one more outlet to get information out there. And like I said, sometimes everything doesn't make the paper. Sometimes you run out of space. So it's great to have every outlet we can to get information out there. It's like I said, you guys can't go cover every game, but you can cover a game and put information out there from other games. So
that's right.
That's what we'd like to do.
And it's a good partnership. We're blessed in this community to have a radio station, as we talked earlier, that does these games. We're blessed to have a newspaper that is supportive of sports and everything that goes on in the community, and we're just all better working together.
Well, I want to emphasize that, and it's not me or you or anybody else. It's just the community. A lot of places don't have this. I've gone to other schools before trying to get stats. They don't have those things. I've asked, who are your 1,000-point scorers in basketball?
They can't tell you.
Nobody knows. Nobody ever put that together. Well, it's really neat to be able to have that stuff here to, think to all the guys who have done the sports back through the years.
Yeah.
Thank goodness they put stats together, because when I went back and did the football book and did basketball stats and whatever, so much of that stuff was there. I mean, maybe not everything, but enough of it was there to make an effort to try to put together record books and history books and results. And
we need that stuff.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm hoping other people do too, because I keep putting it out there. So,
I think they
so
do.
hopefully they do. But that's been really fun. I mean, I've gone through, I think, every issue of every paper that's still available someplace. And unfortunately, I think termites got to the 1933 Times leader, or the leader at the time, the Princeton leader. But
Wow.
I still can't get over that, but that cost me. But
you got a bunch of them back there.
For the longest time, there were 2 papers in town,
Yeah.
and we forget that. At one time, back around 1940, there were actually 3 local papers.
I did not know that.
So when you go back and start looking at, and thankfully along the way, somebody at the paper always was a sports fan, or for the most part.
Yeah.
Because even going back to the 1920s, you see basketball coverage and the football team results were almost always put in there. And so if I'm doing anything, I'm just trying to continue what somebody else started.
That's awesome. And before you was Joey Randolph, and you know, Brad Kimmel was around doing stuff, and I don't even know who it was.
Even back through the years, I mean,
Yeah.
the 40s and 50s, somebody always had all that. So that's
And that's
big
great.
that information
It tells
was
you a lot
there.
about Caldwell County and their sports fanaticism too, because it is. I mean, this is a community that cares about its sports programs and what their kids are doing and supportive. We talked about that. So, boy, it's going to be fun, and I can't thank you enough for being here today. Any final thoughts as we close out today?
Well, just that first, I wasn't sure I could fill 30 minutes, and I even brought a cheat sheet full of notes.
We got about an hour.
We didn't even get through all my notes. So we've got some stuff for next week. But
We do.
just how much fun this week has been. There's been some big games. It's a lot going on. I encourage everyone to get out. I know everybody can't make every game, and but if you can make a game or two a week, I thought the local teams would really appreciate
Support
it.
these kids and
Nothing looks
coaches.
better when you come out of the locker room to see a big crowd in the stands for if it's football, soccer, volleyball, whatever, and volleyball games that people should go. Those are so much fun.
Yeah.
Soccer games are so much fun if you just go out and watch. Football games are awesome. Don't sit at home. Go to the game. You watch the stream when you get home.
Yeah, you can do that, and encourage you to get out and support these kids and these Tigers, these coaches, and it's a community thing. It's a good feeling.
If you haven't been to a game, just go out and check it out. And just
They have popcorn.
yes, the concession stands would appreciate your
Support the band,
business
yeah.
too. So show up to the games and just always try to make it a good time for the teams and the fans and everybody there.
Well, thank you, Todd. It's been a fun morning.
Oh, it's been awesome.
Yeah, and look forward to seeing you next Thursday. It's 9 o'clock. It's called the Sideline Report with the Times Leader. Check out Todd's paper on Saturday. He will have a game wrap-up. Of course, listen to the Saturday Morning Quarterback, and then every Wednesday he's got a big sports section as well. So keep up with it with Todd Griffin and the Times Leader.
And we'll be here next week.
Yeah, that's correct. So that'd be great. Yeah, 9 o'clock next week, next Thursday for the Sideline Report. It's 10 o'clock. You've been listening to the Sideline Report with Todd Griffin, Times Leader. I'm Ty Engelbright. Thanks for joining us. Tune in next week at 9 o'clock for the Sideline Report, brought to you by the Times Leader and WPKY. Have a great day, everybody. Appreciate you being